Imagine waking up tied to a nameless gurney. They look at you, take your pulse, and they don't say patient. They say maruta, Japanese for log. In that instant, you stop being human. You are material. That language trick opened the most efficient horror lab of the 20th century, Unit 731. A quick warning, this is not fiction, it happened. Thousands of people, men, women, children, babies, were treated as disposable. None of those subjected to experiments survived. And what was perfected there unleashed epidemics that wiped out entire villages. Ready for the worst? We haven't even gotten there yet. Late 1930s Manchuria, a perfect name for an indecent idea. Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. Behind the sign, a plan. Shiro Ishii, a microbiologist and military officer, convinced the high command the war of the future would be bacteriological. First a smaller center with rumors of escape, and then the leap. Pingfang, on the outskirts of Harbin. 6 square kilometers of a closed city. Labs, rat and flea breeding facilities, barracks, cells, crematories, its own power plant, and a landing strip. It wasn't a laboratory, it was a factory. Picture Building 7. Damp brick, cold light. Inside, between 300 and 400 captives at a time. Every morning assigned as variables in a table. Controlled infection, pressure, wounds observed not to heal but to measure. At the end of the trial there is no discharge. There are ashes. Case closed. Next. Open another door. The cold room. Manchuria in winter is unforgiving. Here they sought the limit of human freezing, as if the body were an equation. Bare arms exposed to the freezing air while being sprayed with water to speed up the ice. Sometimes immersion in tubs with water a few degrees above freezing. Other times outdoors with wind directed onto the skin. The goal was always the same, to completely freeze the area. How did they know they had reached it? They checked by the sound. When hitting the frozen skin with an object, it had to sound like wood. That was the indicator. Not pain, not color, sound. Then came the second half of hell, thawing. Different methods to see what happened. Warm water at different temperatures, directed hot air, friction. And sometimes they repeated the freeze-thaw cycle to compare damage, measure times to gangrene, observe necrosis. They weren't trying to cure anyone. They were looking for data. What treatment worked for a soldier with frostbite on the front, which accelerated or delayed tissue destruction. The human body reduced to protocol. But wait, the most sinister thing wasn't just inside. It got out. Ceramic bombs loaded with infected fleas opening over villages, poisoned rivers, spontaneous outbreaks of plague and cholera. It wasn't improvised sadism, it was maps, trucks, schedules, logistics in a lab coat. They called it science. It was devastation. Japan surrenders. Justice? Not as you imagine it. The trade-off arrives. Data for immunity. Science bought with pain. Several responsible parties changed offices, lab coats, cities. The file closes. History puts a pin in it and whispers, "We'll be back." Decades later, the truth pushes through. Testimonies, trials across the curtain, photos, papers. And in 2018, a list with thousands of names, not numbers. Names, signatures, professions. Denial runs out of air when the ink is precise. Let's pause here. Not to rest, but to understand the mechanism. How do you light a hell without fire? With 4 matches, 1, ideology, the other is worth less. 2, hierarchy, obey, don't ask questions. 3, euphemism, change vivisection to procedure, freezing to exposure test. 4, advancement, perform and you rise. You don't need monsters, you need normal people with clear goals and a culture that rewards efficiency over conscience. Imagine this scene. A young, ambitious doctor arrives. Day 1, observes. Day 7, takes samples. Week 4, gets promoted, stops shaking. In his diary, he doesn't write, "I betrayed medicine." He writes, "I met objectives." Does that sound familiar? Goals, metrics, obedience, morals, if they get in the way, are called noise. Make it personal. Tell me now in the comments, before it ends, what word do you repeat at work that dehumanizes without you noticing? Collateral damage. Optimization. Human resources. Pacification. If an act needs a disguise, maybe it shouldn't happen. Let's go back to Pingfang for a moment. Inside, no one came out to tell the tale. Outside, hundreds of thousands died in man-made epidemics. These aren't museum figures, they're empty chairs. Science without ethics turns people into graphs. And graphs don't cry, but wait, the worst is coming now. Recognizing the mold in our present. Algorithms that decide without a face. Bureaucracies that dilute guilt in microdoses. campaigns that turn people into dangerous others. When language twists, the world follows. No uniform is needed, just a protocol and enough emotional distance. 3 practical lessons to leave here with more than just chills. First, euphemisms equal alarm. If a decision can't stand without pretty words, stop. Call things by their name or don't do them. Second, fiction of obedience. Healthy hierarchy has friction. Asking questions isn't sabotaging, it's hygiene. If the command doesn't allow questions, it doesn't deserve obedience. Third, memory is a break, not a museum. Sharing these stories isn't morbid, it's public health. The next time someone says that's in the past, remember, the mold is still here. I want you to overlay 2 images. The first, an empty red brick room, peeling walls, echoing footsteps. The second, a silent table because someone who never returned is missing. Between the two, a question. What word, what obedience, what protocol turned a person into maruta? The answer isn't in a distant archive, it's here in how we speak, work, reward, and stay silent today. If this video moved you, I ask 2 concrete things. 1, leave your theory below. What mechanism chilled you the most? The euphemism, obedience, or advancement? Read others and respond to them. Let's make memory active. 2, share it with someone who wouldn't watch content like this. Not for a view, but to add an emergency brake to their world. If you want us to uncover other denied chapters, secret programs, uncomfortable documents, stories they tried to bury, subscribe and suggest the next case. We will tell it with names and dates without disguises because unchecked power doesn't need monsters. It needs us dehumanized. And that starts with a word. Just one. Maruta. Let no one ever be called that again. Never again.